What is up, Annuity Giants? Tracy Lounsbury making another great video for you guys. So, hey, this is another video in response to John. John, I'm going to tag you. And this is just a great learning opportunity because, it's just different perspectives and just different views on things and then how it all kind of works together, right? So to go back here, I want to address again just some conversations between John and I in the group about income annuities that are performance driven with a level of guarantee versus just the highest guarantee, right? So John made a comment here that if a client is hoping to get, a 7 or 8% payout, and, really we're talking in context here about the 4%, the 4% rule, how come we can't look at getting them, a 7 or 8% payout, being the fact that it's, obviously, or less than that, obviously higher than the 4% rule, and then also giving them performance, right? How come we can't just go with a less guarantee product that has a performance element to it? And so my argument with this is that historically it has never worked, right? So we've never seen a historical performance-based annuity do well. Again, going back to those old Allianz and Athene products, and I think even American Equity had some where they had a performance-driven element to them. The Allianz 222 is probably the biggest, most sold product out there that had this roll up on the interest credits that was supposed to really bolster it, right? So on a performance-based product, essentially how it works is that as you earn interest, you get a higher future income if the interest is above a certain threshold, whatever, right? So like, hey, if I make 10%, then 20% goes into my income base, which then increases future income. Or while I'm taking income, that 10% interest that I get goes towards the income base. And if that goes up to a certain amount, then I'll get future income that's higher. So you reference the nationwide, a nationwide product. And so I want to go through that. Okay. So let's go through some numbers. Okay. So let me go ahead and we'll do this. Give me 1 second here. There. Okay. So this is what I'm using here just to kind of scroll up. I am using a 60-year-old in Michigan with $1 million, deferring it 5 years starting on year 6. Okay. So the highest income out there with a good company is with Eagle Life, owned by American Equity. You get $110,500. So percentage wise, that's that is 11. Let's see, was it 11%, right? Yeah. So it's an 11% payout essentially, right? So of your original principal in 5 years, you're going to get an 11% payout, and that is guaranteed for life. Now, if I go and I illustrate this, right? And let's just go and see what kind of, what I can even illustrate. None of it's sexy. So, it has a 4.5% S&P cap. So let's just say it makes the 4.5% S&P cap, over time, right? All those other indexes are volatility controlled, so not very good. So let's go ahead and take a look. So obviously, if it's not making very much money, let's go down to here. If it's not making very much money over time, it runs out in 16 years, right? The principal. So no death benefit, the money runs out. But what you're getting is this 110,000 for life, right? So then your rate of return here is that you turn $1 million into 2.7 million. And obviously that number goes up if you live past 89. That's called an internal rate of return. That internal rate of return is probably somewhere around 5.5%, which is pretty damn good. Okay. So now let's go back here and let's look at the product you were talking about. So this is the Nationwide's New Heights. You can use the 8, the 9, the 10, doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm going to use the 8 here for kicks. All right. So if I use the 8, I'm only getting 96,000. Okay. So that's a significant difference. That's over 50. I mean, that's $15,000 a year difference. I'm doing my math right. Or close to that. right? So $15,000 a year difference in income, that's like two pretty nice vacations, right? But the goal here is that, hey, if I have performance in it, the way this product is designed is that you have increasing income down the road. Okay, well, we can talk about that. And let's see here. Okay, so what I did was I said, all right, well, how much do I have to put in there to get 110,000 in income? So then I solved for that, and here's how much I would have to have. So I wouldn't need $1 million, I would need $141,000 more to get the same guaranteed income, right? So what I'm going to explain to you real quick is that since I don't need this, I do not have to worry about legacy. I do not have to worry about leaving money to my kids. Because if I'm looking to solve for guarantees for my clients, then you need more in the nationwide product than you do the Eagle Life product, right? Okay. So if I want to solve for legacy or leaving money to somebody, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 141 and I'm going to invest it. And I'm going to invest it in whatever the heck I want. So if I got a 6% compounded rate of return over a 25-year period, I just passed 631,000 to my heirs. So in this case, we're really talking a 30-year period. So over 30 years, that's 852. If I get a 7% compounded rate, 1.1 million. If I get an 8% compounded rate, 1.5 million, right? So now the market doesn't return that, but the point is that I'm taking the difference and I'm investing it into something for legacy. Maybe I'm purchasing life insurance with it, right? Leaving a tax-free benefit. So then what I'm doing is I'm being intentional with my money and I'm separating those two things. I'm saying this is for income, this is for legacy, because this is guaranteed and this is guaranteed, right? I could put this into a guaranteed death benefit annuity and have 2.5x my value of that as a death benefit, guaranteed, right? Or I could put it into life insurance and maybe I get a 3, 4, 5x multiplier, whatever it is on it, right? Or I go take the difference in income, that 15,000, and I just fund that towards a life insurance policy. And then now I'm leaving a giant legacy for my family, right? So again, intentionality, right? So the argument here is that why give up growth if you can get both, but the growth is not guaranteed? I'm saying why not get the guaranteed income, which is higher, take the difference and get a guaranteed legacy? Because essentially, what do you need growth for, right? You need growth for legacy or future income. Well, I'm already giving you future income, higher income. So let's focus on legacy. Okay, so now let's go back to the product. So will a product like this perform? And that's the question. So let's talk about that. So if you open up this product, okay, and you go to the accounts, here are the indexes you can use. Now, when you illustrate this, you can illustrate these returns: 8%, 7, 7.6, 6.1, 5.6. So the lowest you can illustrate is a 2.73, 2.06, but you're probably not going to do that, right? So which indexes are you going to use to illustrate is my question. Well, you're definitely not going to use 2-year or 3-year indexes if they're available, because when you're constantly taking money out and you don't get credit interest for 2 years, that's really bad, okay? So we're only going to use 1-year indexes. So why don't we go down the line here? Okay, this index is illustrating at 8.05%. Well, how's it done? Well, let's take a look. Here's this index. This index has been around since 1986, okay? Since 1986, it's averaged 4.29%. But over the last 10 years, it's only averaged 2.18%. But Tracy, I get 140% participation rate on that. Right? 140% minus a 1% spread on anything that it makes. So that means that I'm going to go and I'm going to take, let's just say the last 10 years it's made 2.81. You get 140% of that. So now you're talking let's just call it 2.9. And then they're taking a 1% spread. So you're actually at 1.9. So you're actually making less than what the index actually did, which, okay, makes sense. I'm not using that index, Tracy. How about the next one? Next one is the NYS, it's the Zebra Edge. Okay, let's take a look at the Zebra Edge. I think it's in here somewhere. There it is. Zebra Edge. launched in 2021, so it's got almost no history on it, and since inception has made 2.08%. The last year, it literally lost money when the S&P was up 26%. That's garbage. So, okay. And what's that illustrating at? Oh, it's illustrating at 7.84%. That's should be criminal, by the way. All right, let's go to Goldman Sachs. I'm going to use the Goldman Sachs one. All right, that one launched in 2022. Okay, 2.4%. What did it do last year? Over the last 1 year, it's done 6.7%. S&P was up 26%. Okay, year to date, it's up 3.94. S&P's up whatever it is today. Okay, so all right, well, I get where's that one at? Goldman Sachs. I get 175% of that minus a 1% spread. So starting to do the math on that, again, it's not even making over 5%. And that's, it's only been around since 2022. It hasn't been tried, true, tested. How are you going to explain that to a client? You're not. All right. Then let's see. We have another one that JP Morgan, the Mosaic. Okay. Let's find that one. Here's the Mosaic. Been around since 2016. Since inception's done 1.34%. 2023 was up 3%. S&P was up 26, right? Okay, so what you're saying is that every index in here sucks. Yes. 130% of crap is crap, okay? The only index they have that's decent is, hey, look they have an S&P 500 into a par. Participation rates don't perform at the same cap rate, and it's only a 35% par, okay? So I can go into a calculator and calculate the S&P 500, which, I just happen to have over here, and you guys can't see this, and if I drag and drop it over here, you won't be able to see it. But if I go and I look at an S&P 500 at a 30% participation rate, the average return you're going to get, and that's only, by the way, it only locks that in for 8 years. After 8 years, and we're going to talk about that for a second. Obviously, if the S&P goes up 10%, you make 3.5, right? S&P goes up 15%, you make whatever, five something, right? So it's not a very good index to use when, the S&P is very volatile. You're going to have low years, you're going to have high years. So I like cap rates better. At least you get 100% of that up to a cap, right? The only time a par rate really makes sense is when you're going to have a year where, the S&P does 20% return, and then you'll make a modest 7, right? Okay, that's not too bad. But is it a 7% illustration? No. Is it going to make 7%? No. This annuity is probably designed to make between 2 and 3%, right? So if it's designed to make 2 or 3% and you illustrate 2 or 3%, maybe even give it 4, right? How's that affecting future payouts? And if it's still going broke, which by the way it does, it still goes broke if it makes 4%, then you've just put yourself in a position where the performance didn't matter, right? So why don't we take a look at a product where the performance actually matters? Okay, so if I'm going to use a performance-based annuity, I'm going to go ahead, give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the Trivista. Okay, so this is ClearSpring's Trivista. So this is an illustration showing the exact same thing, only the Trivista has I think it's a 4.5% fixed account and a 10.25% S&P cap. Okay, now the guarantee on it is 7%. Okay, so it is less than the Nationwide product. So the Nationwide $1 million gets you in 5 years a guarantee of, let me go back and look here, 9.6%. This is 6.9%. Okay, but because of that, you're able to get much better indexes, and as it credits interest, this product grows. So let's look at an illustration. So this is an illustration using that 10.25% cap, right? So let's pretend it hits that cap 3 out of the 5 years that you have it in there, which is about probably average. Okay, you're going to have a guarantee of $88,000 at that time, $88,895. And once you turn the income on, and if it still starts to make credits on that S&P cap, it actually grows your income now to a certain extent, and then it stops. So this is actually showing that your income will grow to $107,000. inside of that product, which is higher and maintains principal for longer. But I want you guys to pay attention to something. Okay. In this product, this is making a 10.25% cap. That's about a 7% plus rate of return, probably close to 7.5%, right? At that amount, which is not even close to, the amount that the guarantee, remember that guarantee product I was showing you guys. If we want to go back to it, that guarantee product, I screwed up. That guarantee product was paying 110,000 with no performance, right? So this is less, and it's making a massive rate of return still, 7+%. Look what happens to the account value still. Over the life of the contract, your account's still going to zero because it's designed to do that, okay? It is designed to give you such a high payout that your account goes to zero. So even in an account like this that's making 7% versus the Eagle Life Annuity that's making essentially 0%, guess which one is still returning better? Because if that account goes to zero, right, the one that's returning better is the one that gives you a better internal rate of return, which is your income, based on your income. So it's always going to be a better internal rate of return, okay? So going back to that original philosophy here, okay? Going back to that original philosophy, this versus this, somehow this one is better because it has better potential for growth. When you actually break it down, it really doesn't. And the growth that it could have in potential is going to be subpar because after this hits that 8-year surrender period, or if you use the 9-year or the 10-year or the 12-year, if you want to go out that far, after it hits that surrender period, the potential to hold these rates, even if they did perform, okay, has now gone away. Because what's happening here, you guys, I'm going to open up Paint. What's happening, you guys, is this. Okay. So, let's see here. Man, I have not used Paint in a long time. Okay. Let me. So, boom. There we go. Boom. Okay. So, let's do this. Let's go ahead and we're going to share. Stick with me, you guys. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to share. Oops. If it'll let me share it. Nope, it's not going to let me. It's not going to let me share my Paint. What if we did? It's not going to let me. Okay, that's okay. We won't do it. I wonder if I can do it in. I want to give you guys a visual here. Okay, so see if I can open up Canva and start a whiteboard. Hey, here we go. So, all right, so let's do this then. So we're going to go and we're going to draw. Perfect. Here we go. All right. Aha, there we go. All right. So here's what we're going to do. So you have to understand that this is how insurance companies make money, okay? So when you invest your, you know what, let's just do $1 million, okay? 900,000 of that is going into the general account. Okay. And then 100,000 of that is probably going into paying, you know, comp and costs and options and possibly into, um, alternative investing. Okay. Alts like real estate or in the stock market or whatever. Okay. So this general account is made up of bonds. Not just any bond, it is a bond yield to maturity. Okay. All right. Now that we've done that, let's get rid of all of it. Okay. So knowing that the 1 million is going into, most of it's going in towards bond yield to maturity. Okay. So let's take a look at that bond. Let's just say the bond is paying, or bond plus, let's just say the whole amount here, this 900,000, plus the 100. Let's just say they're able to make roughly 6.5% on. Okay. 6.5. So that's 6.5 equals 65K. Right? So what is the 65K paying? So the 65K is paying for options. Okay. And options are a direct cost to or fuel indexes. Right? Index. Now, so that is how they do that. So when we go back and we look at, I can do this, okay? If we go back and we take a look at these indexes that I showed you, right? These have a cost to them. To get let's pull this up again. To get 140% of this index costs them dollars. How many dollars, okay, is the question here. So why do insurance companies use alternative volatility controlled indexes? Well, because a VC index cost way less than an S&P one, okay? Now, I don't know the exact cost here, but let's just say it's going to cost 250 bips, which is 2.5% for one of those indexes, okay? Well, the reason why these insurance companies like to use volatility controlled indexes is because it looks good on paper. Okay. It looks really good to show that because there's nobody stopping them from back testing, essentially. Right. And their options budget is not very big because what they're making, right? A lot of that, let's just say the difference here, let's just say they take a 1% spread. So now they're at 5.5, 2.5 is going towards the indexes. So the other 2.5 has to be used to pay that rider, or not really the rider, but what the rider is doing, which is, it's not mortality. It's I'm not going to spell this out, but longevity, long J, risk, long JR, longevity risk. That's what it's paying for. Okay. And it's required. These companies can't go and dump a bunch of money into these options costs when they know that they have a liability. What is their liability? Their liability in this case is the fact that they have to pay this. What was the payout? let's see here, 96,000. They have to pay out this 96,000 every year forever. Okay. Makes sense? So, $1,000,000 goes in. 900,000 general account, other 100 goes elsewhere. Bonds paying them 6.5% of that. The liability is a big cost to them. So the way that they can budget, right, is now handicapped. Now, when they buy these bonds, it's not forever. It is to a yield to maturity. Okay. So this is a direct reflection of the surrender period. Not in all, okay, I'm making it simple, but it's a direct reflection of the surrender period, which, for example, here could be 10 years. Okay. So what happens after the 10 years is up? So what happens on year 11? Well, the bonds come due, meaning they have to go repurchase new bonds. Wait a minute. At what rate? If they're able to get 6.5% today on year 11, do they go purchase another 10-year bond? No, they can't, because there's nothing stopping that client from taking all their money and saying, bye, I'm out. And if they go and they purchase a 10-year bond and then they have to call the bond early, okay? So if they have to call early, what happens? They could see huge losses. And there's no way for them to recoup that. Why? Why can't they recoup that? Because there's no surrender penalty anymore. That's how they recoup losses that they have to call early. That's what that is a direct reflection of, right? Plus some profit margin there as well. So if the insured, after surrender, can just go take all that money out, right? At any time, do you think they're going to go invest that into something that's 10-year? No. So instead, at year 11, what they're going to do is they're going to go short-term yields. What do short-term yields look like? 1, 2, 3 years. And what do those 1 to 3 year yields look like? Not 6.5%. Right? Okay, so if it's not 6.5, right, then that means the yield, let's just say it's 4%. So what was their options budget again? Their options budget was 2.5% to hold that rate, right? But then they had to put a percent. So the 6.5, they have a percent profit margin. They have 2.5. They have to put away for yield to maturity for that rider. So if they're only making 4, go back here. So if they're only making 4, and then 4 minus your 1% becomes 3, and then 3 minus what they have to put aside for the income rider, which is 2.5, you now have a 0.5% options budget. Okay, so 0.5% compared to 2.5% is 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. It's a fifth. 1/5 options budget. So what does 1/5 buy you? All right, let's go back here. 140% par. Okay. So 140 times 0.2, you now get a 28% participation rate on an index that was already poop. Welcome to the world of annuities, everybody. So, is that like exactly? No. But the point here, you guys, is why the hell would you mess with that? Why? When you know without a guarantee, shadow of a doubt, that you can get a guaranteed yield in a guaranteed product, you can get a guaranteed death benefit in life insurance or a guaranteed roll up death benefit annuity, or you can leverage the market, right, and put it in an ETF and buy and hold for a long period of time and pretty much beat the snot out of anything else out there. Why would you mess with this? Why would you even fathom messing with it, right? So when your clients want both, you can do both, just not in one product. I hope you guys understand that. I hope this was eye-opening because it took me 30 minutes to shoot. God bless you guys. We'll talk to you soon.